Friends, in today's video, I am going to tell you how a human child was born from the stomach of a cow. You will learn all about it in today's video, so make sure to watch till the end. What happened with the cow and why did it give birth to a human child? Let's find out. But before we begin, please like this video, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe and click the bell icon. Now, let's get started. I am Dr. Zahir Rahman. As usual, we had gone to a remote village for a camp. After seeing patients all day, my colleagues and I were extremely tired. It was a cold night and we were closing the camp. Just then, a man came running towards us. Judging by his condition, it seemed like he was in an emergency. Upon seeing him, I immediately stood up and asked, "What happened, uncle?" He gasped and said, "Quickly come to my house, doctor. My wife is about to give birth." Hearing this, I was stunned because we didn't have any surgical tools at the camp. I then asked him, "How old is your wife?" He replied, 36. I said, "In that case, performing surgery on your wife would be quite difficult for us. She may need an operation, but we don't have the equipment here." However, he didn't listen to any of this. He said, "You all need to come with me now. I don't care about anything else. Come with me, or my child will die." I was very scared after hearing this, and I understood that this case was going to be complicated. But what I didn't realize was that, alongside the complication, it would also become a reason for our astonishment. Anyway, the man trusted us and said, "Please come with me." He then started walking in front of us, and we followed him with some emergency supplies. We had a female doctor with us as well. At that point, we all assumed the man's wife was about to give birth. But when we reached his house, we saw his wife waiting outside for us. As soon as we arrived, the woman said to her husband, "Thank you for returning so quickly. Mina is struggling." I asked the man, "Who is Mina?" What he replied left me completely shocked. He said, "Mina is our cow, and today she is going to give birth." I was speechless. I thought maybe they loved their cow so much and called us to help her deliver safely. At that moment, I felt like I wanted to scold him, yell at him for calling us here so late for something so trivial. But I didn't. The man was as concerned for his cow as anyone would be for their wife. Honestly, in that moment, I felt not only anger, but also amusement. The man cared for his cow as if it were not just a cow, but his married wife. We didn't say anything to the man after that. I said, "Your cow will be treated the same way as a human would. Don't worry." Upon hearing this, he was relieved and said, "This is really important, or else my wife will be upset with me." My attention kept going back to the man's wife. It wasn't that I was looking at her badly, but she seemed like a very clever woman. There was a strange kind of devilish look in her eyes, as if she was hiding something from all of us that she didn't want to reveal. She kept walking around us, sometimes saying, "Give Mina some water," and at other times saying, "Feed Mina some grass." It was clear from her words that she was very concerned about the cow. Anyway, we got an injection from the nearby pharmacy and administered it to the cow. As soon as the injection was given, the cow started jumping around, almost as if it were about to deliver right there. Naturally, when an animal gives birth, its baby is usually kept on the ground. But when the time came for the cow to give birth, the man's wife immediately brought out a blanket from the house. The blanket was very beautiful and soft. I was taken aback when I saw it. I asked, "What is all this?" The woman replied, "The calf that will be born from our cow will be placed on this blanket. We will not let our cow's baby fall on the ground." I was utterly amazed by what she said, but I didn't speak. The woman placed a chair in front of the cow and spread the blanket over it. We thought we wouldn't stay long. Once the calf was born, we would leave. But that didn't happen, because what we saw in the next few minutes was truly astonishing. The woman placed the blanket on the chair and set it in front of the cow. We thought maybe there was still some time left for the delivery, and we could go inside and rest for a while since it was getting colder as the night wore on. So we went into a room inside the house and sat down. It had only been about 10 to 12 minutes when we suddenly heard a shout, "Quickly come! The calf is being born." We rushed back, and what we saw left us speechless, because there was no calf at all. Instead, there was a human baby lying next to the cow. At first, I couldn't even recognize that it was a human baby, but when we looked closely, we realized it was a human baby. We were all astonished. I was the most surprised because, in my entire life, I had never seen anyone love a pet so much. I've never even kept a pet myself, but what I was witnessing with my own eyes, if you were there with me, you would have been equally astonished and would have found yourself questioning your own mind. The woman immediately stepped forward and with great joy wrapped the baby in the blanket and said, "Doctor, please, give the baby some vaccines or injections so it doesn't get sick." I stood there staring at the woman in sheer disbelief, but there wasn't the slightest hint of astonishment on her face. While we were all so shocked, there was none of that in her eyes. It was as if she knew from the very beginning that the baby born from the cow's stomach would be a human. Anyway, I was truly astonished. 2 female doctors and the others took the baby inside, and we stood outside. Suddenly, the cow's condition started deteriorating. It was so bad that we all became frightened. The cow began to scream, and its agitation shocked all of us. The man who had brought us there stood frozen, not understanding how all of this could be happening. He looked at me and began to cry, saying, "I'm done for. Something has happened today that never happened before. I'm ruined. My world is destroyed. I'm a coward." The man's words were incoherent, and I couldn't understand what he was saying. I asked, "Nassim, what's wrong? I understand your cow is in trouble, but why are you crying?" I was equally bewildered, and I couldn't even talk to him properly. I thought maybe he was just worried about his cow's health. But then he said, "No, I'm not worried about my cow. It's this baby. It's the baby that has ruined me. The baby won't leave me alone." The man sat down, beating his forehead. At that point, my attention fully shifted to the cow. It seemed like someone had beaten the cow badly, but Nassim said that wasn't the case. Actually, the story was something else. If you hear it, you will be just as shocked and perhaps cry like I did. Saying this, Nassim sat down in front of me. I asked him, "What happened? Why are you crying?" By then, I had forgotten about the baby because the woman had taken it inside. The lady doctor had also gone inside with Nassim's wife. I was thinking to myself, I would ask Dr. Saira everything later. We had no idea what was happening inside. We were standing outside and only observing what was happening outside. Nassim's eyes were filled with tears, and in a trembling voice he said, "My wife has won, and I have lost." I asked him, surprised, "Nassim, will you tell me what happened?" Upon hearing my question, he started sobbing uncontrollably. After a while, he suddenly stopped and said, "I will tell you everything myself, but first, I'll show you something that will make your hair stand on end. Then you will understand how bad I am. You will feel sorry for me." With that, Nassim asked me to stand up. I got up and he led me to a room. His wife and the lady doctor were standing there. There was a look of joy on his wife's face, as if there was no sign of any worry or surprise. Then Nassim showed me something that left me speechless. It felt as I was dreaming. I never even imagined that a woman could be like this, not even in my worst nightmares. Anyway, I quietly stepped outside. Nassim once again sat down in front of me, joined his hands, and said, "Friend, please help me. Otherwise, I will be finished. I'm asking for your help in my helplessness. You can see my helplessness. Please don't let my wife find out about this. Talk to someone about this situation, and let me know what I should do. I only have a week left. After that, I will be completely ruined." Seeing Nassim sitting with his hands joined, I felt deep sympathy for him. I thought to myself that I should help him, because he was in a big problem. An unwanted child had unexpectedly arrived at his house. Nassim was extremely worried, and honestly, anyone else in Nassim's place would have been equally concerned. I promised him that I would help him. When Dr. Sira came out of the room, I told her everything. Hearing my story, Dr. Sira wasn't very surprised. She promised that she would definitely help me with this matter. But I knew that Dr. Sira and I alone wouldn't be able to do anything. When we reached the city, we had Nassim's mobile number. We went and showed the pictures and videos of his cow's calf to other doctors. We had a senior doctor in our group, Dr. Zakir, who was between 40 and 50 years old. He could quickly grasp any issue related to medical science. After seeing the pictures of the baby and hearing the delivery story, Dr. Zakir told us, "You shouldn't be worrying about these things." Hearing this, we were very surprised because we wanted to help Nassim. This sounded like a selfish remark. It felt like pure selfishness. I said, "You should understand how this man must be feeling." After hearing our words, Dr. Zakir smiled and said, "When did I say that you shouldn't help him? I'm just saying that this case is beyond your capacity to solve. In medical science, it's extremely rare for any animal to give birth to a human child. To solve this problem, you should consult with a Maulana or an elder from the village. Go to them, explain everything, and ask them to help Nassim. You won't understand the true nature of his wife until you consult with a peer or a Maulana, because solving this problem is not within the realm of medical science." I understood Dr. Zakir's point. Dr. Saira had also told me to consult with a Maulana or an elder because in cases like this, their advice was crucial. I had realized then that I had very little time. Despite being extremely busy with various medical cases, Nassim's pleading face kept appearing before my eyes. He had said, in a pitiful voice, "Friend, please save me from destruction." Remembering these words, I didn't delay any further and went to Maulana Sahib to explain everything. Hearing my story, he was astonished and said, "I have never heard anything like this in my life. People have told me about many kinds of problems, but this is the first time I've heard of a cow giving birth to a human child. However, I agree to go with you. Nassim is our Muslim brother, and it is our duty to help him in his time of need." Hearing Maulana Sahib's words, I felt much more confident. I showed him the item Nassim had given me. Seeing it, he was even more surprised and said, "We must go to Nassim's village immediately." The next morning, we rented a large car and set off for Nassim's village. The village was quite far from the city, but by driving fast, we reached Nassim's house in a few hours. Upon arriving at Nassim's house, we were shocked. A crowd of villagers had gathered there. It seemed as if something major had happened. We got out of the car. All around, various conversations could be heard. Almost everyone from the village had gathered at Nassim's house. They had all come to see the child, about whom rumors were circulating that a cow had given birth to it. Nassim's wife was happily showing the child to everyone. There was a strange joy in her eyes. Her face showed no trace of affection or maternal love. It was as if she was playing with a toy doll. However, I still couldn't understand her true nature. Maulana Sahib said he would speak to Nassim privately and wouldn't share anything with me about it. Nassim was also very happy to see Maulana Sahib, and they went into a room to talk. After a while, Nassim came out of the room. His face showed a strange confidence. Nassim loudly declared, "Stop all this nonsense and leave. When I call you again, come back. You will see something even bigger than this." Hearing Nassim's words, everyone was stunned. They began to wonder, what could be bigger than this? I kept thinking about what Maulana Sahib had said to Nassim, but he didn't tell me anything. We were all asked to leave the house. Eye doctor. Syra and the others sat in the car and waited. Only one question kept swirling in my mind. When would this mystery be revealed? I was restless, waiting for the true nature of Nassim's wife and the truth to come out. The villagers waited in amazement, but they knew nothing about the real incident. Some stood in awe, looking at the cow and the child, while others whispered among themselves. The day passed like this. Evening fell, and night began to descend. Then Nassim happily called us all inside. As we entered the house, we saw that the atmosphere inside was completely different. Candles were lit all around. In the center of the room, Nassim's wife stood inside a circular arrangement of candles. The scene was as if an accused was standing in the dock. Not far away, Maulana Sahib sat on a chair. His face reflected deep silence and solemnity. After a while, he pointed to the oil boiling in a pot nearby. The oil had become so hot that it had turned reddish. He said to Nassim's wife, "This oil will be poured into your ears." Hearing this, Nassim's wife began to scream in fear. In a tearful voice, she said, "Please stop this. I will tell the whole truth." Maulana Sahib said firmly, "You will confess the truth in front of the villagers. Otherwise, no one can save you from destruction." Hearing Maulana Sahib's words, Nassim's wife began to tremble in fear, folding her hands and begging for forgiveness. She said, "Please have mercy on me. I will tell everything. I will never do such a thing again. I will leave this village." Her voice was filled with remorse. With her head bowed, she confessed in front of everyone, "I have truly sinned. I have made a grave mistake. I am Nassim's wife. At the time of marriage, I had accepted Islam, but I could never truly become a Muslim at heart. I always remained a non-Muslim. I wanted to trap Nassim in the web of my love and make him accept my religion." Everyone fell silent upon hearing her words. She continued, "When we found out that I couldn't have children, I told Nassim that if a human child was born from a cow, he would have to accept my religion. At first, Nassim didn't believe me. He argued that it was impossible for a human child to be born from a cow. Then I said, 'But what if I make it happen? Will you accept my religion then?' Nassim didn't respond at first. After thinking for a while, he said, 'All right, if it really happens, I will accept your religion.' Perhaps Nassim's faith was weak at the time, or he thought such a thing could never happen, which is why I was able to convince him to agree to this bet within a few days. Later, our cow became pregnant. Nassim was very excited and called a doctor. I was extremely worried because I was unsure whether my plan would succeed. When the doctor and Nassim entered the room, there was still a lot of time left for the cow to give birth. I somehow managed to distract them and sent them out of the cowshed. The moment they left, I quickly got to work. The cow had given birth to a normal calf. I hid the calf in a back room. Then I placed a human baby, which I had brought earlier, next to the cow. After that, I called out loudly, "Come quickly! The cow has given birth." Everyone came running. My plan had succeeded. Maulana Sahib advised Nasim to seek forgiveness from Allah and to repent, as his weak faith had led him to agree to such a bet. Nasim's wife confessed the truth with her own words. Otherwise, only Allah knows what her fate would have been. Dear readers, although this story is entirely fictional, it carries important lessons for us. First, we must always keep our faith strong. Second, it is our duty to stand by our Muslim brothers and sisters in times of trouble. Please let me know in the comments how you like the story.